Norm, it's Mark Taylor-Canfield. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you so very, very much. Hey, and what about that helicopter crash in Seattle today?
I have been on my feet reporting from the Space Needle all day for other news networks, and yeah, it's a tragic, sad story. And it's kept me very, very busy today. But the reason I called, one was to wish you a happy birthday because I couldn't get in yesterday, and also to give you a heads up that I sent you some music as a birthday present, so look for it.
Well, thank you very much.
On March 26th, there is going to be a Progressive Radio Northwest Forum in Seattle. Another one. You spoke at the last one and did an excellent job, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was thanks for helping me write my article at Op-Ed News because
you did a great job. You did a really nice job.
Well, you did an excellent presentation, and that's kind of this ongoing conversation that you just had and that we've all been having around the country in independent media. And so on the 26th, I'm going to be one of the panelists, and we're going to talk about social networking and its importance in this new type of media, which is something I'm sure you know a lot about and have been putting into practice all along.
I'm doing my best here, Mark, because we got to end run these corporate radio station owners. They just won't put us on. We've got no either fold up or adapt.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Progressive Radio Northwest is about. That's why your presentation there was so apropos to what we're trying to do. And this time on the 26th, and by the way, there will be more forums later in the year, but we're going to have Jacob Dean from Filter Free Radio up as well as one of the panelists. He's a broadcaster from Portland, Oregon, which also lost its progressive station KPOJ, and where efforts are going on there to buy a low-powered station. They raised $250,000 on their Kickstarter campaign. And then we'll also have a local guy here from Seattle named Space Radio. That's their network, and they're kind of all over the map. They cover all sorts of different things. But, I just wanted to let your audience know that was going on. And also in reference to what you just talked about with scientific research, one of the stories that I've been working on again is the FCC suppressing its own reports on the negative effects of corporate media consolidation. And that's been an ongoing issue I've been covering for years, and have interviewed whistleblowers who are professors who have admitted, and gone public that, they found that it limits local media coverage, that it limits female and minority ownership of the media. So this new Time Warner Comcast issue is really, on people's radar in the media democracy movement and independent media. So I just wanted to let people know I testified before the FCC during the last round of media consolidation, had those reports in my hand, had interviewed Professors Napoli, Jan, and Janich from the University of Delaware and the University of Michigan, and the FCC, who had commissioned these reports and paid for them, claimed they'd never heard of them. So that's what we're up against on the political level.
Well, the FCC ought to be ashamed of itself. I mean, it doesn't regulate the industry. It's a cheerleader. It's been captured. The FCC should be ashamed of itself. And look, President Obama shares a big chunk of the blame. He appoints these corporate FCC chair people who just, give the industry whatever they want. Bill Clinton was the same way. It's the reason so many Democrats are upset with the Democratic Party establishment, because they've sold out and gone corporate. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. The FCC should be ashamed of itself. The Department of Justice should be ashamed of itself. The antitrust laws have 3 inches thick of dust sitting on them. We are seeing consolidation in every industry now. Not just radio, not just television, not just cable, but we're seeing it in the airlines. There's like 5 airlines left, 4 cell phone companies. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's gotten ridiculous. And by the way, speaking of cell phone companies, I wish you would really investigate Credo Mobile at credomobile.com. CREDO is Credo. credomobile.com/norm. Check them out. They are now Mark in Seattle. If people want to take drugs, whether it's Rush Limbaugh and OxyContin, right, or me eating a brownie with reefer in it, that's our own damn business. There's nobody else's, especially if we're doing it in the privacy of our own home. We're not driving under the influence, right? We're not influencing anybody. We're not causing problems to anybody. If it's just us, then it's our business. 2 things I was taught as a kid. Keep your hands to yourself and mind your own business seem to be things America's forgotten about. It's time we relearn some of those old-timey lessons. But there are therapists now. I'm talking about established mainstream psychiatrists and psychologists that are using ecstasy. Yes, ecstasy. It's clinical name MDMA as part of therapy to help people deal with anxiety and PTSD. There are lots and lots of therapists undercover because they're going to lose their license. I mean, if they get caught using ecstasy as an aid in psychotherapy, their licenses are gone and their careers are over. But there are credible, well-established psychotherapists who have become convinced that PTSD and other disorders of the mind can be treated with ecstasy. Now, I confess I have never done ecstasy. Never once done it. Have never tried it. Have no interest in trying it. I've never used heroin. Never tried it. No interest. There's lots of drugs I've never tried and have no interest in trying and never will try. But I do know one thing. Follow the facts and work with the truth. If there are reputable psychiatrists and psychotherapists, and there are, who are out there using ecstasy, which has gotten a bad reputation, right? And especially because it's a street drug, it can get adulterated, the dosing is unestablished. There ought to be clinical trials with real establishment medicine, with actual scientists in the white coats, with standards and purity levels established, and above-board, transparent, open clinical science. Accepted, peer-reviewed science. And if after clinical trials, supervised, for example, by, the Food and Drug Administration, if after a rigorous set of clinical trials, under microscopic scientific review, with purity established and proper test subjects, if it turns out that MDMA, ecstasy, is its street name, has zero medicinal or therapeutic value, then so be it. Then I'd be the first one to say, well, then it has no value. But we're not going to know that unless and until we run a set of establishment clinical trials. And if there is a group of psychotherapists out there, and there are, who say that this stuff works and it helps people deal with post-traumatic stress disorder and other anxiety diseases, then why are we not doing the clinical test? And the answer why we're not doing it is because of prejudice and fear. Because there's an absurd war on drugs out there that clouds the mind and stops us from just calmly investigating science with science. It's a disgrace. We claim to be a grown-up, mature nation. I see very little evidence of that. What I do see is a nation full of hysteria, fear, and reactionaryism. That's not even English, but it is what we've got. It's a crying shame. It's wrong. Now, we ought to be running tests on all of this stuff. Cocaine, for example, is used in medicine under rare circumstances, but it is used. It's used for people with end-stage colon cancer. They give them a colonoscopy enema. They give them an enema full of cocaine. Numbs the pain, gives a patient a better sensation. Right? If you're in end-stage colon cancer, you're not in a good place. My mom was in end-stage colon cancer, and I saw her. She was not in a good place. So they use cocaine in medicine under rigorously, supervised circumstances. But I mean, even cocaine is used in established corporate medicine. Investigate this stuff. If the facts, follow the facts, work with the truth. If it turns out that MDMA, ecstasy, has no value, then let's publish the results and say, see, don't use it. But if it turns out it does, then why are we denying people with significant mental disorders the benefits under a trained psychotherapist of having the benefits of ecstasy? And at least if it were legalized for use by psychiatrists and psychotherapists, at least then we could have established purity standards. We could have standardized dosing. The psychotherapist would know. The psychiatrist would know. Has this many milligrams for this many milligrams for this. I mean, what's the problem here? Let's just follow the facts and live with the truth. Investigate it in an open, transparent, clinical way. 1-888-321-6001. Mark in Seattle. Hello, Mark.
Norm, it's Mark Taylor-Canfield. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you so very, very much. Hey, and what about that helicopter crash in Seattle today?
I have been on my feet reporting from the Space Needle all day for other news networks, and yeah, it's a tragic, sad story.